Hello friends, very good morning. Welcome to the Hindu editorial analysis. The title of today's editorial says Stinging Indictment. What is the meaning of this particular title? So before getting into the meaning, we will try to understand what's happening here. So you have this police force, you have these law enforcement agencies. What are they doing? Let's try to understand what happened in 2017. In 2017, there was a Maoist attack on CRPF Jawans in Chhattisgarh. After that, 25 CRPF Jawans died. When 25 CRPF Jawans died, the government had to respond. Law enforcement agencies or the security forces must respond, right? People will question, what are you doing? They are coming and killing you. The Maoists are killing so many people of you. What are you doing? So they will have to face these kind of questions. So what did they do in 2017? They immediately arrested 121 tribals. They immediately, who are they? The law enforcement agency. They arrested 121 tribals from that region. 121, not 1 or 2. Right? They arrested 121 tribals and put them behind bars. So they have incarcerated them. Incarcerate means put them behind bar, behind jail. Incarcerated or jailed. The problem here is now National Investigation Agency's special court has come out with a judgment that these people who were put behind jails were actually innocent. They were innocent. They were not the culprits. They are just innocents. So now you understood the story, background story. Under this story, and after understanding the story, let's try to understand the title. A stinging indictment. Stinging means something like harsh. What is the meaning of indictment? Indictment is something that proves a system is wrong. A system is wrong or bad. So this particular incident of National Investigation Agency pronouncing these 121 tribals as innocent, what is it proving? That law enforcement agency is wrong. These people were innocent. They were made scapegoats. What is the meaning of scapegoat? Scapegoat is someone who is held responsible for a crime he did not commit. There is a person who didn't do any crime, but he was made responsible. He was made accountable for the crime. That person is called scapegoat. Like all these tribals, they did not commit any crime. They did not support the Maoists, but they were put behind bars. So they were scapegoats. They became scapegoats. So that is the meaning of the title. So this judgment is like a harsh proof that law enforcement agencies have gone wrong. They did not function in a proper manner in India. Now let's go through the editorial line by line. The scapegoating, I've just mentioned, I just told you what is scapegoating, of innocent tribals in the fight against Maoists is a self-defeating ploy. Ploy means plan. It is a plan, it is a self-defeating plan. It's a very important sentence, I want you to understand. So let's look at this. Today we have a government on one hand. Government wants to fight Maoists, and we have tribals here. These Maoists come to tribals and they say, we are fighting for you. We are fighting for you. This particular government did not treat you well. They did not treat you well, because of which you remained poor, because of which there are a lot of economic inequalities, because of which you remained resourceless. And we are, the Maoists are fighting on behalf of you with the government. And this government is repressive or oppressive. They crack down on anyone who go against the government. They are not people who will listen. They are not people who will look at protests in a peaceful manner. They will try to oppress or suppress anyone who is going against them. Government says everyone should follow rule of law, but the government itself doesn't follow rule of law. So this is the propaganda of Maoists. Saying all these things, they try to influence Maoists. Right? But what did the government do? In such scenario, what should the government do? Government should win the confidence of tribals. It should win the confidence of tribals. How can it win the confidence of tribals? By following rule of law, by following procedures, by helping them with economic and social empowerment. That is how you can win the confidence of tribals. When the government wins the confidence of tribals, tribals won't support Maoists and Maoist movement will weaken. This is how government should think. But unfortunately, what is the government doing? The government is harassing tribals. In this particular situation, the government arrested 121 tribals and put them behind bars for 5 years. If you do such things to tribals, these tribals will go closer to Maoists, isn't it? That is why it is a self-defeating ploy or plan. So very, very important. You need to understand the whole context. The acquittal of 121 tribals by a national investigation agency court who were wrongfully held responsible for the deaths of 25 Central Reserve Police Force Jawans in a Maoist-led ambush in Burkapal, Sukma district, Chhattisgarh in 2017 would have come as a huge relief for them. It would have come as a huge relief. What is relief? Now you are relieved. You are behind bars for 5 years. Now you are relieved. You are free from all that. So this particular court, what did it do? It acquitted. Acquit means to free someone from guilt, which means to say someone has not committed a crime. So there is understand these words. There is when someone is charged with a crime, you call him accused. You call him accused. That means there is allegation or there is accusation that this person has committed a crime. This person has committed a crime. What is the meaning of acquittal? Now the court is saying he has not committed any crime. He is free from guilt. So you can release. That is called acquittal. So these 121 tribals were acquitted by National Investigation Agency Court. These people were wrongfully held responsible. So they were not responsible, but they were wrongfully held responsible for the deaths of 25 CRPF Jawans in a Maoist-led ambush. Ambush means hiding and then attacking. Right? So these Maoists, they hide behind trees, they hide behind all this greenery and then suddenly attack CRPF Jawans. That is how they hid themselves and attacked Jawans in 2017 and killed 25 Jawans. And for this killing, unfortunately, these innocent tribals were held responsible and they were put behind bars. The tribals were held under the Draconian Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and the fact the court held that there was little evidence that the tribals had any association with the proscribed Maoist should be a pointer to the utter failure of law enforcement agencies in their response to the massacre. What is the meaning of massacre? Massacre means mass killing. If you kill a large number of people at once, it is called massacre. Massacre means a large scale killing of people. Large scale killing of people. So 25 people were killed, so they called it massacre. In response to the massacre, what did the government do? What did the police officers do? They held these tribals under which act? Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which is UAPA. UAPA came into picture in 1967 and it was recently amended in 2019. In 2019, there is a provision that you can designate any individual also as a terrorist. Earlier, there was a provision to designate an organization as a terrorist organization, but with the 2019 amendment, you can also designate an individual also as a terrorist. Once you designate someone as a terrorist and arrest, it is very difficult for them to get bail also. That law is very strict. That is why you call it a draconian law. A law which is very harsh and very strict is called a draconian law. Under this law, these tribals were held, and now that there is little evidence, there is no evidence that these tribals have any association or link with the proscribed Maoists. They do not have any association with the Maoists who are proscribed. What is the meaning of proscribe? Proscribe means ban. Proscribed means banned, forbid or banned, completely banned by law. So they don't have any connection with Maoist, so you can release. That's what NIA court said. Which means, what does it point to? It points to utter failure of law enforcement agencies. They did not do their job in a proper manner in response to this particular massacre. While justice has definitely been done to the innocent villagers, yes, for innocent villagers, finally justice has been done. But their prolonged incarceration, they were put behind bars for quite some time, almost 5 years. This prolonged incarceration would have clearly upended. What is the meaning of upend? Upend means turn something upside down. What was turned upside down? Their lives. Their entire lives were turned upside down because they were put behind bars for 5 years. Even their dependents also suffered because of this. The tribals who had been arrested and kept in jail for 5 years had been denied bail in the past by the NIA court and the Chhattisgarh High Court, because the UAPA law act is very strict. It's a draconian act. Both Chhattisgarh High Court and NIA court did not give bail to these people. Clearly, in what seems to be a dubious trend, dubious means doubtful, something that is not genuine. In such cases, in conflict-ridden Chhattisgarh and beyond, the imposition of draconian UAPA without sufficient proof has resulted in this situation. Why did we get to this kind of situation? Because the government or law enforcement agencies used UAPA, which is a strict and harsh act, without sufficient proof. Even without proof, governments are using this, because of which people are struggling, and it has become a trend. It has become a trend in such cases. A defense lawyer also claimed that police investigation was poorly done. Even the police investigation was not done in a proper manner. After the CRPF Jawans were killed, the investigation did not happen in a proper manner. Why? How can you say that police investigation was not done in a proper manner? Because the injured CRPF commandos were not made witnesses. There were some CRPF commandos who died, and there are some CRPF commandos who were injured. Ideally, what should you do? You should ideally make them as witness, because your colleagues were being killed in front of you, and who better than you as a witness? Unfortunately, they were not made witnesses in this particular case. They were not made witnesses, lending credence to the fact that apprehended people had been made scapegoats. Since the police officers did not call or did not make CRPF Jawans as witnesses, now we have our own doubts, and there is confirmation that these people who were apprehended means arrested, who were taken into custody, they had been made scapegoats. What is the meaning of making someone a scapegoat? Making him responsible for a crime he did not commit. They did not commit any crime, but unfortunately they were made responsible and they were held under UAPA. Now we can believe, because the genuine CRPF commandos were not called to be witnesses. As a takeaway from the outcome of this case, the state must ponder as to whether this strategy of rounding up suspects among the hapless tribals in the name of swift action following a military setback does any good to law enforcement. Very important sentence. Very, very important sentence. Pay attention here. What can the government take away from the outcome of this particular case? What is the result of this case? These tribals were released. Finally, they have been released. What can the government can learn? The government or the state must ponder. Ponder means think. As to whether this strategy, what is the strategy? Rounding up suspects among the hapless tribals. Hapless means unfortunate. Whenever you are facing a setback, in the name of swift action, which means media will question you, what is the government doing? 25 CRPF Jawans were killed. What are you doing? These kind of questions will come from media. So in order to prove to media that we have done something quickly, what is the government doing? They are quickly suspecting, they're quickly arresting or rounding up some hapless tribals. These unfortunate people are innocent people, and they are putting them behind bars. So this solves your problem temporarily, but what will it lead to? Embarrassment. What happened now? Government has been proved wrong by NIA court. The clearest way to defeat the Maoist insurgency, then how can you defeat Maoist insurgency? What is insurgency? Insurgency means going against the government in a violent manner, fighting the government in a violent manner, or any political movement based on violence and motivated by disenchantment with the state. Disenchantment means dissatisfaction. Any political movement or a Maoist movement motivated by dissatisfaction with the state and something that includes violence. How can you tackle such kind of movements? What is the clearest way to defeat such movements? Is to uphold the rule of law. You must defend the rule of law. Being the government, you must defend the rule of law and win support among the people. You should win the support among the people who the insurgents claim to be fighting for. These insurgents are the Maoists say, we are fighting for you, we are fighting for you. So government must win the confidence of tribals. They must win the support of tribals. Only then you will be able to defeat these kind of insurgencies, violent insurgencies. Without the support of people, neither the government nor the Maoists can win. See this. Without popular support, which means without support from people, insurgencies are bound to fail. They will definitely fail. If people don't support, you will fail. Where will you stay? Where will you hide yourself? If you are hiding somewhere and if you don't want the people around to inform police, then you need to have their support. If you don't have the support, they will definitely inform police. So insurgencies are bound to fail. Specifically, the Maoist movement that is underpinned on winning over those disenchanted with the Indian state. Maoist movement is based on what? It is based on winning over those who are disenchanted with Indian state, people who are not happy, people who are dissatisfied with the Indian state. So these Maoist movements are based on that dissatisfaction. You are not happy, the government is not doing any good to you, we are fighting for you. That is how they try to influence. So what do Maoists do? Beyond harping on factors related to poverty, livelihoods in crisis and economic inequality. Harping on means talking. What do Maoists do? They talk about factors related to poverty, livelihoods in crisis and economic inequality. Apart from these, in addition to doing all these, the Maoists also use tactical violence. What is the meaning of tactical violence? Strategically, they use violence. It's like this. I'll explain this. I have already explained, but I am explaining once again. See, look at the strategy of Maoist. So when you have a Maoist, so this particular person, he uses violence and provokes the government. And government's response in an aggressive manner. And sometimes in their response, they don't follow rule of law. They don't follow procedures. They react aggressively. They react in a repressive or oppressive manner. In such response, governments also tend to harass these tribals. When the governments harass tribals, when the government arrests these tribals and put them behind bars, that is when Maoists go to them and say, look at the government. They are harassing you. They are troubling you. And that is why we are fighting for you. Come and stand behind us. Come and stand with us. This is how Maoists try to influence the tribals, and government is falling into the trap of Maoist agenda or propaganda. So they use this tactical violence that invites state repression and serves their purpose of questioning the legitimacy of Indian state. What is legitimacy? When you are doing everything according to law, then you are legitimate. According to rules, then you are legitimate. So Maoists question the legitimacy of government's action, because governments in their aggression, Sometimes they don't follow rule of law, and Maoists question the legitimacy of government and try to win over the tribals. By typecasting the tribal people, typecasting means saying that these people always support Maoist. When you are typecasting someone, that means you are saying they do certain thing always. For example, when you are typecasting tribal, which means government is saying these tribals are always in support of Maoists. And conflating dissidence and disaffection with insurgency. Dissidence means protest. Disaffection means dissatisfaction. What is the government doing? The government is combining these two with insurgency. If, for example, there is someone who goes against the government in a peaceful manner, that is democratic. Government must respect it. And there is someone who is going against government in a violent manner, that is undemocratic. You must suppress it. Unfortunately, the government is conflating, means combining both these things. It is combining both peaceful things and violent things. By doing that and taking the dubious route of mass incarceration, what is the government doing? It is taking the route of mass incarceration. What is incarceration? Putting someone under jail. Dubious means something that is not genuine, suspectful or doubtful. And government is resorting to these kind of activities following any setback to the security forces. Whenever government faces any setback to security forces, immediately government is taking the route of mass incarceration and closing the case. By doing this, law enforcement agencies only end up adding grist to the Maoist propaganda that emphasizes that these are just characteristics of a repressive state that is beyond reform. Maoists always try to say the government is a repressive state. It always oppresses people. It always oppresses people. It is not in support of people. It is very difficult to reform. It is very difficult to change this kind of government. This is the kind of propaganda. Propaganda means dissemination of information. They always try to say, what best example of propaganda, you see lot of content floating around in WhatsApp saying Congress party is against majoritarian or Congress party is against Hindus. This is the propaganda of BJP. Or other parties, they also try to do some propaganda, like BJP is a communal party. They always try to support one particular religion. Again, that is a propaganda. Propaganda is something that you try to spread, that you try to make someone believe. So what are Maoists doing? They are trying to make tribals believe that the government is not a good government. It is an oppressive government. It is beyond reform. We cannot reform it. That is the propaganda of Maoists. And the government is also doing similar things like mass incarcerating, putting so many people in jail without sufficient evidence. Whatever Maoists is saying, people will tend to believe it. So that is getting added more value. Grist means value, that additional advantage. Their propaganda is getting an advantage because government is also doing negative things. Besides purposive socio-economic action, what is purposive socio-economic action? What should the government do? Government should have a goal, should have a purpose. What is the purpose? To improve tribals in a socially and economically. So that is one thing that the government must do. Apart from that, besides means in addition to that, law enforcement must reinforce steps related to procedural law. What should the law enforcement do? They should, whatever they do, they must follow procedures. They must strengthen the procedural steps. Whatever procedures they follow, they must strengthen them. Reinforce means strengthen. To disprove the Maoist critic. Why should they strengthen? Because they have to disprove, means prove someone wrong. What should you prove wrong? The criticism of Maoist of the Indian state. They are criticizing Indian state. They are saying Indian state is not following rules. They are saying Indian state is against tribals. So to disprove that, law enforcement agencies must follow procedures. They must strengthen procedures. They must win the hearts of tribals, and they must retain legitimacy among tribal citizens. They must retain legitimacy or trust of tribal citizens. Only then they will stay with you. Otherwise they will suspect you and they might side with the Maoists. This is how you need to win over Maoists. That's about it. Take care. Bye.